What We Learned in AP English 11 by Joseph Franklin and Daniel Sincari. Education is the path from cocky ignorance to miserable uncertainty by Mark Twain. Boy, do we know that now.
Coming in this class, we both felt like we knew exactly what we believed in. We weren't necessarily ignorant, but we were fairly grounded in our own worldviews and felt like we knew exactly what was happening in the world and what we thought about it. Both me and Joseph share pretty much the same ideologies. Well, politically, we're both conservative and religiously both Christian, but he's hardcore.
And he's a sissy moderate. Now, our story begins in ancient Japan. We need to set the clocks back. It starts in the year 464 AD.
In ancient Japan at the time lived a young man by the name of Hyundai. Hyundai was a farmer, and Hyundai is also pretty irrelevant to this story because it's really about another man named Toyota who was in love with his Japanese culture. Oh, and he also liked men.
But, like all men, he was eventually doomed to die, and he was buried underground, 6 feet under.
Years later, he rose up in the form of a notoriously opinionated 11th grade high school English teacher. This was our English teacher, Mrs. Hilton. She was known for a notorious distaste for guns and support for gay rights.
And that's where the story for our English class begins.
We started with the book The Scarlet Letter, where we learned about Hester Prynne and the idea of blind conformity, which paralleled to modern day society.
Then we moved to Huck Finn, where in the unlikeliest of heroes, Huck, although to the distaste of society, he found refuge and friendship in a black man named Jim.
Then we learned about the Great Gatsby, where we learned about the idea of a facade with the colors white representing purity and yellow representing corruption. We learned that the American dream was much like this facade, and the idea of a red-blooded American still held ties to what Americans were originally trying to escape from, blue European culture.
Then we learned how to write, and prominent part of this was essential questions, which helped us develop our thesis and keep us on track. But probably the most important thing we learned was ice cream, which allowed us to scoop a rhetorical device and then use that rhetorical device to develop the meaning and purpose the author intended and develop an opening. And this was to be dripped throughout the rest of our essay. We also learned about a lot of current events in class, and these were used in our discussions that we had frequently, almost every day. Unfortunately, these discussions sometimes turned to arguments.
Of course, the most heated of these arguments were between Joseph, Mr. Hardcore Conservative, and Ms. Hilton. They talked about a variety of issues from gay rights to gun control to abortion to Guantanamo Bay, just everything. I, of course, found this quite entertaining.
But although we may have had our heated discussions, they definitely opened our eyes to the world around us and helped us better develop our beliefs and why we really believe what we believe.
Although we may have disagreed sometimes, we learn how to think critically in this class. We learn how to examine the world around us to come to better conclusions about our own worldviews. So we thank you for that.
Although I still want my guns.
Shut up, Joseph.